Explain like I'm 5. Why are humans the only animals that cook their food? Usually people overlook it, but humans are still animals. Why is it that only humans cook their food and every single other animal is fine with whatever? We are the only ones who know how. If other animals knew how to make fire, they might prefer it and adapt to that. Domestic dogs and cats can eat cooked food. People who have high needs pets, or are just concerned about mass-produced pet food, make their own pet food. All of the homemade dog food recipes and some of the homemade cat food recipes I've seen call for cooked ingredients. But since cats and dogs can't build fires or operate the stove, they eat raw meat when left to their own devices. We were fine with whatever too. But then we mastered fire. It makes a lot of foods far easier to digest by breaking down tough vegetables. It also makes many foods safer by killing microbes, or even by breaking down naturally occurring poisonous compounds like in yams. Making food more bioavailable meant we didn't need to eat as much food to meet our nutritional needs. That gives us more time to play, think, solve other problems, build, develop tools, language, etc. I think it's meaningful to point out that humans are the only animal that cooks food right now. There have been several other species of hominid that utilized fire over the last couple million years. Sapiens is the best at it though, and all others are dead or assimilated. But not like the Borg. Several people have mentioned the brain development needed to understand cooking food. And sure, that's a valid argument. I have another one: try starting a fire without opposing thumbs. Because humans are the only ones who are intelligent enough to use fire instead of being scared by it. I wonder if you left a heat source out near tool using primates, if they'd figure out you could cook things on it. A lot of animals prefer cooked food if they have the option. There are so-called firestarter birds in Australia that start wildfires to roast nuts and small rodents. The reason why other animals don't cook is because they cannot control fire. Fire is very dangerous. It is safer for your species to survive if they spend all day gathering and digesting food than playing with fire. Apes like hominids are really a fluke in this regard. I think it's mainly because humans are the only animals that have figured out how to reliably use fire. Fire is a complex and difficult to manage technology. You need a lot of brainpower to use and maintain it. Other animals just don't have the option. Need I remind you that in order to cook you need to be able to make fire? So what you should be asking is, why are humans the only animals who have mastered fire? Answer is big brain and opposable thumbs. You can process food without fire via controlled fermentation. But I think that's even harder than mastering fire. Edit looks like lots of other comments are completely forgetting what it means to cook. Frame a question in a certain way and people forget the basics. Tears of joy. Cooking requires control of fire, which is only something that humans have accomplished. As far as general food preparation by animals, Japanese macaques on the island of Koshima started washing sweet potatoes that researchers gave them in rivers to get the sand and dirt off of them. This behavior evolved into dipping them in seawater for the salty flavor. Most humans can get sick from bacteria that can be found in uncooked food, probably due to centuries or millennia of cooking and our DNA rewiring our immune systems to adapt to how it currently is. That's not to say that you can't eat raw food. There's just more risk involved with doing it. No idea how or when it became the norm. But it's just one of the many things that humans do that other animals don't do. In the aftermath of a fire, there may be some cook victims left behind. They don't go unnoticed, and some predators like bears do enjoy the scent of cooking meat. Cooking requires control of fire. Only humans have control of fire. Other animals haven't had access to the means to cook food. You ever seen an alligator trying to turn on an oven? I think the main reason is that our apparatuses are not practical for other animals. But if they had something they could easily use, I bet they'd cook their food. Cooked or smoked food lasts longer and can be stored with less or no refrigeration. Fresh food goes bad in a much shorter period of time. Cavemen didn't have internet-enabled refrigerators. They probably figured out that when they cooked their foods they didn't shit as many worms or feel sick that often after a meaty meal. We like to eat stuff we shouldn't. Whether it's cereal grains, meats, eggs, etc. We aren't really supposed to be eating a lot of this stuff due to germs and parasites. But fire kills those, allowing us to eat it safely. Additionally, some things like mushrooms are only safely edible if cooked. If you're a starving human, you might try eating a mushroom off the ground and get sick. But then after a forest fire you eat one again out of desperation and instead you get the high of your life. I would start burning everything I ate if I experienced that. Humans are not animals. And most animals don't have the cognitive functions to cook food because it requires steps to archive it. They are not smart enough. Simple. We do eat uncooked food, and eating freshly killed animals raw tends to be relatively safe. But there are still parasites, things that could upset our stomach, and it's worse if something is left out. We started cooking food as it makes food easier to eat and digest. It's widely believed this advancement allowed our brains to develop because no other animal knows how to do it. What you are overlooking is that we would also be fine eating raw meat. It's just that instead of 100 we would live 20-30 years on average. At some point humans learned to change their environment to fit them. We became toolmakers. They started doing long chains of this toolmaking, and cooking is one of them. Eventually, other animals also prefer cooked food. But few have the capacity of creating the tools needed. Some could probably gather the tools needed. But it's not the same thing and didn't give the same bang for bucks. Other animals related to humans could also do this. But some evidence point to that the current humans killed them at me point in time. Neanderthals, etc. Cooking our food evolved our brains and we like it. We'd probably still be banging sticks together otherwise. Only humans master fire? That may be why. Why is it that only humans cook their food and every single other animal is fine with whatever? This isn't really true. Lots of animals have problems from, for example, parasites they get from meat they eat. They are generally better adapted to doing this than we are. But they don't have blanket immunity. Because cooking is not a trivial thing to do. It requires a lot of intelligence. A toddler couldn't do it, for instance. Yet a toddler is more intelligent than most animals. If you could talk with almost any other animal and tell them that all you need to do is rub a couple of sticks together amongst some kindling, their response would be, "It's all right for you. I've got no thumbs." The trite answer is that we're the only species that can cook our food. Other species use fire to some extent. For example, the aptly named firehawks of Australia will take burning objects from wildfires and use them to spread the fire. They do that to flush out prey and make them easier to catch. But unlike other animals, humans can actively create and control fire. Fire is one of our key adaptations that allows us to extract much more energy from our environment than other species can, and cooking is just one example of that trait. It's likely the reason we're what we are today. Mastering fire would have given us a huge boost evolutionarily. The increase in calories it allowed meant that developing a larger brain wasn't punished by evolution. I think there's evidence of early hominids using fire. Long before Homo sapiens,